Sometimes I get asked, just what does a manager do? I actually think that stems from a lack of understanding of what the definition of a manager is. I thought I'd piled together a list of definitions just to explain how hospitals are managed. The formal definition of a manager is a person who's responsible for planning and directing the work of a group of people. Managers typically, by definition, do not have a direct patient care assignment, although sometimes they do depending on the size of the unit. If it's a very small unit or a specialized unit, they might. But as a rule, they usually don't. Other common attributes. They typically do the hiring. They play a strong role in employee warnings and write-ups and terminations, although ultimately HR always has the final say in terminations. We're really just middlemen. They do have the authority to change people's work assignments. They can kick someone from day shift to night shift and so forth as needed to cover the needs of the department. Numbers of staff members, in my experience, have been in between 20 and 70. Sometimes a little more, although that's unusual, usually somewhere in that range. What is a working supervisor? What's the difference? Working supervisor basically is a manager who supervises a small department, 15 or less. Usually with a group this small, the manager needs to participate in the workload. They have a daily assignment, although not always, again, like an accounting unit or something. But for the most part, yeah, they have a working assignment. They usually aren't doing the hiring. Usually a director or someone who's in charge of the supervisor does that. But again, depending on the unit, sometimes they do. And they do play a role in employee warnings and terminations, although almost always that's handled by someone with a higher level of authority. A director, then, is someone who's responsible for directing the activities of managers. By definition, directors usually don't have a day-to-day work assignment in terms of patient care. The director is there to control other managers. Number of direct reports, it just depends. That's all over the place. There's really no set design for that. And finally, vice president is someone who directs the activities of directors, if that makes sense. Also, the VP is really someone that sets the vision for the division. This is really the main person in charge of that entire division. So, in a nutshell, you see this organizational chart, which is the one I am involved with, and this really spells out exactly from the staff level all the way up to the CEO, the chain of command, as you will, really how the hospital is managed. And you see all the different department managers with their associated assistant managers or supervisors or whatnot, down to the staff level, going up to the director, CNO, and ultimately the CEO, who is ultimately responsible for the entire organization. This is kind of handy to know when you're looking at different jobs. I always advise people, don't get hung up on details, don't get hung up on individual titles. I've seen jobs that are titled manager jobs that really are director jobs. I've seen director jobs of smaller places that really are working supervisor or manager jobs. I always tell people, just look at what the job entails, and that gives you a good idea on what your duties will be. I hope this clarifies things. Now let's get out there and make the difference.